Okay, so here we are talking about the 21-day detox starting October 10th. The idea for tonight was to lay the foundation a little bit. So if you have a pen and paper, also to kind of make a shopping list, to get your head around some things, shifts you might want to start making this weekend, some things you might want to purchase this weekend, just to get yourself ready, because we actually start on Monday morning. But I wanted to show you, just in case I know some of you have never done the detox with me before, and you may not be sure exactly how it works. So I'm going to mute background noise. So I just want to make sure. Hi, Tracy. Good to see you. Okay, I think that's better. So if you go to my website, redgen4.com, and click on the 21-day detox under health coaching here, you can set up time with me for a one-on-one, but I'm doing that with a lot of you. This video right here shows how a lot of the content's coming through an app. So this shows you, you can scroll and watch this, and it scrolls through the app. It gives you a sense of how the whole thing works. So it won't be so startling on Monday. You can take that. And then this is what I did. I guess it was a week or two ago. Fall into rhythm. This really lays the foundation for why we want to do a detox, the challenges of inflammation, how we can get to a place of feeling burnout, fatigued, motivated, frustrated, angry, especially with all of the heat we've been going through, and with the stress of life in general and these last couple of years. So that, if you can find those resources on my website, of course, I'm happy to send them to you if you'd rather. You have my email. One thing I wanted to draw our attention to, these are the slides from last time, but is kind of the challenge of the season. So I live near the beach, and today it was gray and foggy, and I was like, it feels like fall, yay. But that's not true for everybody. I was talking with someone else that's looking at joining this program, and they were somewhere it was 85 degrees in the shade. So as in terms of providing guidance on exactly what foods to eat, some of you may need foods that are more cooling, and some of you may be ready for roasting squash, for example. Some of you are like, no way am I going to turn the oven on yet. So the way I set this up is to give us room so that you can kind of pick your own journey, right? There's a lot you can take on in the detox. You can do as little or or a lot, as all as you want. But just know that seasonal eating is local eating. And so if it's still very summery where you are, you want to focus on what foods that are sweeter and more cooling. And if it's already starting to be more fall-like, then you may be ready to bring in the pumpkin pie spice and roasted squash and pumpkins. So it's a little bit of a bridge season. I talked about this on that video that I mentioned, but I just wanted to highlight that it's a little bit challenging to figure out, what do I eat right now? So part of this, my goal is for you to get more intuitive about what to eat. And when it's hot outside, to realize like maybe eating hot, spicy curry may not be the best solution, right? Or if it's chilly outside, maybe you're like, oh, I'm finally ready for some soup. So just starting to make the connection, because there's a big impact of food on our mood. And there's a lot of research on brain and behavior in all of this. I mean, food really does change everything. So getting to allow yourself to awaken your intuition, to notice what's going on outside, to see what I need to do to feel better on the inside. So if we're in the winter season, it's much clearer. If in the summer, it's much clearer, but we're in the fall. And so it's a beautiful time to celebrate the bounty of what we're harvesting in the summertime. And there's a lot of peas. I don't mean peas, those are spring food. I mean the letter P. There's persimmons, pears, pomegranates, peppers, passion fruit. There's so many things. So let me show you a little bit about what is in season. And let me get to the handout over here. Okay. So we'll talk about the overall plan in a second. I was just saying what is in season. Here we go. And these are the foods that are actually in season right here in Southern California. There's so many things we're harvesting, and some of these foods feel like summer, and some of them are starting to reach more into more like winter season. So yams are new in October, right? Yams and sweet potatoes. So I would, if you have a pen and paper, write down which of these things you enjoy. I'm actually going to read them. Apples, asparagus. Apples, we're going to ask you to eat an apple a day. It's a very simple hack, and everybody can do it. And if that feels really hard, you can always do applesauce if you need, as long as that's organic. Apples are really good for helping to cleanse our gut and support good microbiome, which in turn helps us combat inflammation. So asparagus is a natural cleanser. It helps support bile and sort of digestive processes to support liver function. Avocado, we all know, is full of really good fats and carotenoids, which are good for eye and brain health. Basil is just delicious. Green beans are super alkalizing. A lot of us are inflamed and acidic, and green beans help to counter that, right? If you think of a chemist, it's a pH problem, but green beans help to calm that acidity and inflammation. Beets are super cleansing for your blood, and you can, roast them. You can I like marinated beets. I keep those around. Those are very handy. It's not that you have to cook all these things. Some could be frozen. Some could be prepped for you already. Some could be marinated or fermented. Broccoli, we all know about that. Green food's amazing for your liver. Cabbage can make a really great slaw. I have to make sure I have that recipe for you. Carambola, I'm not that familiar with that one. Carrots, we all know we can have those all year, roasted, grated, however you like. Cauliflower, beautiful cauliflower rice is a great shortcut to put in a lot of your foods. Of course, you can roast it with curried spices if you're ready for something more warming. I have a recipe for you on that. Chili peppers, if you're feeling overheated, maybe not, right? They're in season and they can add a little spice, but it's for you to choose how much spice you want. There's a lot of beautiful citrus, grapefruits, lemons, oranges. I think we still have some tangerines around as well. Collard greens, all those greens, good for your liver. Corn is still in season, and I would suggest fresh corn can be a good option, but corn in terms of a grain can often be hard for us to digest. So that might be something you want to minimize. Cucumber, super good for hydration and for juicing. Really, really great and very, very cooling. So if you're still feeling hot, and right now I'm starting to feel hot, cucumber would be a good thing. Eggplant, I'm not really a super fan. If you like it, great, go for it. Figs, beautiful, nice, sweet treat, right? If you like sweet foods, I'm going to ask you to give up sugar. Figs could be a nice treat, either fresh or dried. Grapes still in season. Guava, I just got guava from a friend's tree, a bush tree. I don't know what it is, but from her garden. One of my students brought me some. Those have a nice crisp tartness to them. Kale and other leafy greens, so good. Kiwis are newly in season in October. And kiwis are amazing for their potassium content and their vitamin C. And that vitamin C helps with your antioxidant processes. So really helpful for combating inflammation. All the citrus good for that. Kohlrabi, that's another one that's a little bit weird. It's kind of like a turnip, more challenging. So we'll won't focus so much on that. Lettuce, we all know. Melons, we still have melons around. Another nice, sweet, cooling treat. Mushrooms are sort of new to the season, and those are some beautiful things, especially for those of you who don't eat meat. Adding mushrooms to foods can give us a beautiful texture. And really good can be a good source of B vitamins, especially for the vegans out there. Mustard greens, another good dark leafy green. Nectarines, peaches still about. Okra, I think a lot of us don't use. It's a key ingredient in like gumbo and jambalaya. Onions are always good. They contain sulfur, and they are good for staving off colds and flus, but also for other phytonutrients. Passion fruit is also in season along with the guava. It's a really interesting sour kind of a sweet fruit. Works really great in a marinade or a salad dressing. Pears and Asian pears are so good right now. And they are, I would argue, as good for you as apples are in terms of their fiber content, and they're kind of like cousins. So they're really good for your gut health. So if you like pears better than apples, that could be a nice solution. Black-eyed peas, I think about those usually at New Year's, but they're harvested now. Peppers, all kinds of bell peppers around. We'll talk to you a lot about which ones you should be organic or which ones you don't need to worry about. Those are some of the lessons that you'll get in the detox. Persimmons, here are the peas, the pomegranates, potatoes, and that includes sweet potatoes, which don't need to be organic, but those are beautiful. We still have raspberries around, spinach, and all your squashes. We're in this weird place where you can get zucchini and yellow summer squash. At the same time, you can get the butternut squash and the kabocha squash, which is my favorite, and all kinds of pumpkins. And then we still have tomatoes around, and as I started with, yams. So I hope that you took some notes and wrote down a few things that you like, or maybe that you're curious to try. Because my goal is to get you to eat more produce. It's always my goal, but especially in a detox, and to increase the variety of foods that you're eating, because the more plant foods you're eating, the more diversity in your diet, the more diversity in your gut, your microbiome. I realize you can't see me, I'm just pulling at my gut. The more diversity you have in the guts in your digestive system, then that is better your digestion works. And there's a whole connection between your brain and your gut. So you want to have happy microbes in there to help create some of the chemicals and neurotransmitters that work in your brain. So super important to have a diverse diet, and having a variety of produce is really helpful. But you could get plants in other ways, like in teas. I'm a huge fan of ginger turmeric tea. Now, I used to always get this at Trader Joe's. I can't find it right now, but I found it at Whole Foods. So this is an herbal one. There's also one that they have with green tea. Let's see, Trader Joe's does have a harvest blend. And what's cool about tea is, right, these are all plants, right? They just dehydrated all these different plants and herbs and spices and put them in a delicious beverage that you can drink either hot or cold. And I will teach you how to make your cold brew teas. That's the ginger turmeric tea. Turmeric is a super anti-inflammation agent. It's like it's a superhero for fighting it's a superhero of the antioxidants for fighting inflammation. So turmeric, I'm a huge fan of, and it's really a great thing to be sipping on throughout the day if you can find yourself enjoying some ginger turmeric tea, or you can just put powdered ginger in your lemon water. So increasing the diversity of your produce, your fruits and vegetables, your herbs, your spices is really where I want you to focus. And what I hope is that by adding all these things in, we can crowd out those other things. And so now I'm going to go into the good news, bad news, right? So everybody always wants to know, okay, what can I not have, right? And this is the part where I said it's like pick your own adventure. I would suggest, if you want the most benefits, or if you know you're inflamed, you know you have digestive issues, you want to drop some weight, you're having allergies, congestion, if you're having any inflammatory symptoms, then I suggest that you do your best to avoid all of these things. So sugar and artificial sweeteners, sugar in all of its forms. There are so many forms out there. So we're talking about added sugar. I'm not talking about natural sugar that you find, in your fruits and vegetables. Totally fine, right, to have naturally sweet things, but we really want to avoid added sugars and artificial sweeteners. Oh my God, more and more research is coming out about how artificial sweeteners are hurting our gut microbiome. And it's really could be even having impact on why we're having so many like mental health scenarios. I mean, that was an animal study, but they really did find an impact on brain chemistry from artificial sweeteners. And so there's some issues there. So be aware of those. I do recommend honey and the unrefined maple syrup or stevia, or as the liquid stevia are options you can use for sweeteners. But we're trying to minimize that super sweet taste and definitely added sugars. And then the other thing is corn, soy, wheat, gluten, and dairy. most people are sensitive to at least one of these things. Now, and if you've done cleanses with me, I've been leading these for like a decade now. So some of you have been through on this journey before, and you already know what your foods are that trigger you. Then, if you know that, you know that. But a lot of us don't know. And because most of the time we're eating corn, soy, wheat, and dairy every day because it's in almost all of our packaged and processed foods. So it can be really hard to minimize these things. I say a lot of people are lactose intolerant or at least sensitive to dairy, can cause gas and bloating. Even my assistant today was telling me, like, as soon as she has dairy, her face breaks out. What's happening on your skin is a sign of irritation in your gut. So, if you notice that trigger with food, that's a sign. That's your body telling you, like, this is not a power food. So part of this journey together is to eliminate these foods that tend to trigger sensitivities. And they're not acute allergies, like you're not going to go to anaphylactic shock because of these foods. But these are the kind of foods that make you feel brain fog. You might feel bloated. Your skin might get irritated, or like my assistant, you might break out. So the idea would be to minimize these foods as much as you can, especially through, the last, maybe you'll get into this more within sort of toward the end of the first week. And then also we're trying to avoid caffeine or minimize caffeine. Now, I'm not asking anybody to go cold turkey right away, because that can definitely have withdrawal symptoms and can trigger constipation. It is very important for you to poop every day. And if that's not happening, please talk to me. I realize on a call like this, you're not going to be like, hey, I'm not pooping, I need some help. I know. But it is so important to have a bowel movement every day. So if, and I talk to clients about this all the time, and I have remedies for you. So if you want to talk to me about that as we move through, please let me know. So that said, coffee has its place, right? It helps some of us with that morning routine. So you can taper down your caffeine. You could switch to a decaf or a half calf. You could switch from coffee to green tea, which would be even better. So I'll give you, you'll get more information as we go, but that's something that you may want to start playing with over the weekend, is if you can start to, take it down a notch. You drink 2 cups, go to 1.5, right? Alcohol and drugs, those things obviously are not helpful, right? Those are things that your liver has to process. And I am a fan of wine. But, it's time to kind of minimize that, right? So and I've had people do the detox that keep their wine, they just take it down a notch. So it's about where you're going to be. What do you need? But the, platinum plan would be to definitely eliminate the alcohol and the wine. And maybe you want to add instead, like, kombucha, or make yourself a, what do we call it? Golden chai, it's kind of an Indian spice tea in the evening that's will help you wind down, whereas wine often helps to wind us up. So experimenting with different beverages to replace whatever your habit is. And so the last season, people have really had a fun time with the mocktail recipes, and they were like having mocktails in the afternoon. So that could be, it's a fun thing to experiment with different kinds of beverages. Now, we also, of course, want to minimize the toxins lurking in our food. So you'll get lessons on this as we go through, but as you're thinking forward for this weekend and building your shopping list, you want to start to be aware more of genetically modified foods, because most of them are grown in order to use heavy doses of pesticides. And those pesticides impact not only our liver, but also our gut microbiome. So avoiding GMOs can help minimize the toxic load, but also too, organic foods make sure that, and that already includes that they're non-GMO under that label, right? So organic is a pretty big umbrella. The GMOs fall, non-GMO foods fall under that umbrella, within that umbrella, if that makes sense. Yeah. And then there's a lot of coloring and additives and artificial flavored and preservatives and all kinds of things in our packaged and processed foods. So you want to start reading labels and check and see what are in your favorite foods. Focus on, be aware of the dirty dozen and the clean 15 things that are on the dirty dozen, which again, I'll teach you within the first week. There's an app for that if you want to jump start. The app is, let me find it. What is it? Maybe I'll send a link to you guys. It's from environmentalworkinggroup.org, EWG.org. Yes, here it is. It is. It's like healthy something. Oh, it's still a dirty dozen app. Anyway, you can Google or search engine of choice, EWG.org, dirty dozen. And they have a free app where you can just go online. And that shows you what foods are on the dirty dozen that have the highest toxic load, and the others that are on the clean 15, which you don't have to worry about buying organic. So they might work better with your budget because we are in high inflation times. I get it. Okay, so that was the bad news, right? So what do you want to do, right? This is the time to let go of perfection, if possible. No one is trying to have a perfect cleanse, right? Take each day as it comes. Do your best to ease tension. And so that might mean giving yourself a little time to do less, to sit in silence for a minute or more. You can call it meditation if you want, to connect to nature's rhythms. So maybe you live near a park or a beach or a pool or some place where you can put your toes in the sand or in the grass, maybe get in the water, especially if you're somewhere that's warmer, so you can take your temperature down a notch. Taking a little more time just to be with yourself and to connect to your surroundings. That is one of the, it sounds so silly, and it is subtle, but it's a really powerful way to get in sync with the external ecosystem, right? The foods we're eating and the things that we're drinking are helping to nurture our internal ecosystem, but we are connected to nature, right? And those of you who practice yoga or taking my class, it's like we're connected to everyone and everything. That is part of the yoga philosophy. So taking the time to kind of cultivate just a little bit, a few minutes a day if you can, or maybe it's one, to be aware of the nature around you and see if you can actually smell it and see it and touch it, right? And there is a whole thing called earthing, or sometimes it's called grounding, about the benefits of putting your bare feet in soil or grass or sand, the ocean. So, and how that can help recharge us energetically. And it's also exposure to more diverse, what do you call them? Critters, the things, the bacteria and the different microorganisms. That's the word I was looking for, microorganisms. So being barefoot in nature has its own therapeutic rhythm. So that's one of your tools you can use. So those are some of the things to do, right? To spend a little time outside, see if you can find a little time that's silent. And then what to eat. So I went through a lot of things not to eat. We just went through a whole list of what are seasonal fruits and vegetables. And again, those can be, you can use frozen versions because that makes life really easy, especially I know, like Sarah, you're a working mom with kids, like chopping vegetables may not be doable, So it's okay to use frozen, and fermented and marinated. Canned usually are like not that tasty and have too much sodium. So just beware when you're buying them. You just want the straight up, like if you're making smoothies or green drinks, for example, it's really, really handy to have frozen pineapple and frozen spinach to whirl together. I mean, in your Vitamix or your blender, super handy. So allow yourself to take those shortcuts. And then an apple a day keeps the doctor away. I shared in the last video that, the research they did was actually with 3 apples, but By eating the apple, you're getting the fiber that helps feed the good bacteria in your gut. We want those microbes to be happy and healthy. But the other thing that happens when you eat whole foods with fiber like this, it gives your stomach a sense of fullness, right? It takes a while to process that fiber. And in that process, it tells your brain like, oh, there's something in your stomach. And your hunger cues, 80% of them are subconscious. They're coming from cues from your nervous system and from like pressure sensors in your digestive tract, which, sounds crazy. That's why it's like if you ever try to go on a diet, it's like, it's so hard because so much of those hunger cues are unconscious. And I will share some of that as we go through the 21-day detox together. But eating real foods with real fiber are super helpful for many ways, but also like, isn't it really easy to just carry an apple around with you and eat it, right? Anywhere you are. So, and there's all kinds of varieties. So try different ones. Apples are on the Dirty Dozen. So when you are looking for your apple, this is an organic gala. I don't know if you can see, it's probably hard with the light. There's a little QR code on, not a QR code, it's a UPC code, Universal Produce Code or something. If it starts with 9 and it's 5 digits, that means it's divine, it's organic. So that's one of the ways you can know. But the labeling is pretty clear now. Years ago, it used to be really hard. There's all kinds of apples. So experiment, try a few different ones and find what you love and see if you can fall in love with apples, because last year people did. So I hope that you will too. So that's a great, one thing you can do, right? Super doable. Add in some bitter, dark leafy greens. Those all really help to detoxify. Add in your artichokes, your celery, green beans, asparagus, all of those things all help to alkalize. And then add in naturally sweet foods that can help especially if you're still feeling pent up heat. So beets and berries, dates, melons, figs, we talked about all the fabulous peas, the pears, persimmons, pineapples, pomegranates, potatoes, all those things. And just beware that Dirty Dozen. Now, if you're new to me, you haven't heard about my 3P approach here, right? So we have produce, protein, and pizzazz. So I will be sharing you this information, this handout, but with a bunch of recipes in it. I still want to add a few more, so I'll probably send it to you tomorrow. But I always start with produce because that's what everybody needs to eat more of. Half our plate should be fruits and vegetables. That's why I keep, emphasizing it. But in order to maintain steady blood sugar levels and insulin levels and energy levels, and in order to maintain your muscle mass, you need protein. It doesn't have to be a lot, but with any meal or snack, I really suggest if you can start with produce of some kind and add some kind of protein to it. That can be in the form of nuts or seeds or legumes like pepitas, right? Pumpkin seeds are in season right now. Those are such a great, they're really a great tool. They have all kinds of minerals and fiber, good fats and protein. I mean, we tend to always reach for almonds, and they're convenient. I get that. But you may want to add, like I said, a little more variety so you have some diversity to help increase the diversity in your gut. So pumpkin seeds could be a really fun thing to add. And then for those of you that do eat animal products, you want to make sure that if you can, especially during the cleanse, and it's hard now because I know the prices have gone up, and especially quality animal products are probably even more expensive because they always have been. But grass-fed meat, if you're doing, I don't eat 4-legged animals, but if you do, we want to try to get the grass-fed versions of those. If you're doing eggs and poultry, you want to try to get pastured versions of those. I will share my favorite place to get eggs is at Fermentation Farm in Costa Mesa. Their eggs come from, I believe, a farm in Temecula, and they are pasture-raised hens, and the eggs are amazing. You can tell because the yolks are very orange in color, and that is a sign that of omega-3s in the diet, and those are good fats that we need. for our brain chemistry and for staving off depression, for hormonal balance. And most of us are not getting enough of those omega-3s. We hear about getting them from fish oils, and that's helpful from fish, but you can also even get it from your pasture-raised eggs. So protein, right? All kinds of options, but it doesn't have to be a ton, right? And you'll have a lesson on protein, but just in terms of your planning, you want to add to your shopping list. And then pizzazz. So speaking of good fats, things need to taste good. And we do need good fats, especially as we're going into a drier season. Now, like I said, for me today, it was really damp. I know that there's more heat coming in. So I don't know if that's going to be in the form of like Indian summer with Santa Ana winds. If it gets dry like that, it is super important to add more fats, because when it's dry outside, it gets dry inside. So we need to add that lubrication. So avocados, which are in season, olives, coconuts, olive oil, coconut oil, pumpkin seed oil, sesame oil, flaxseed oil, experimenting with different oils can add pizzazz. All these oils you can use to drizzle over, steamed or roasted vegetables. You can mix them into salad dressings. And I have a couple recipes I'll share with you for making your own salad dressing. So pizzazz is good fats, but it's also good flavor. So spices, like I mentioned, in order to improve the diversity of your gut, but also because they taste good. So turmeric, I mentioned earlier, super anti-inflammatory. But cumin and coriander, ginger is a really great thing for cleansing. That just helps overall energy and helps with the digestive system. Chili powder or cayenne, if you're not too sensitive to heat. But all of these, if you think about chili powder, right? You've seen it, the color of it. It's this rich red color. So all that color comes from polyphenols, and those have amazing therapeutic properties, right? And they're part of fighting oxidation and inflammation, right? So they're anti-inflammatory. So you want all those highly colored foods. So adding in pizzazz in these forms, herbs and spices, good vinegars, hot sauce, those kinds of things, but also your herbs and spices can help make your food taste good, but also help make you feel good in the process. Now you're wondering, like, where are the grains, right? Most of us eat grains all the time. When we go for a snack, we're like graham crackers, pretzels, right? Normally, when we start to make a dinner, we're like pasta, what will I put on it? I'm going to have a sandwich, what will I put in it, right? Most of the time, everybody has their carbs. They got the carbs, right? Because you're already eating the carbs. So I'm focusing on the other kind, not that produce doesn't have carbs. And I'm not about anti-carbs. I'm just talking about the grains, right? So the things like bread and rice and pastas and all those things give us extra energy. They're not really giving us a lot of nutrition. They give us energy, right? It's fuel to burn. So, and some of us need more of that energy than others, depending on your lifestyle, how active you are, and how your metabolism works. So during the detox, because we're trying to minimize corn, wheat, and gluten, some of the grains that will work best for you for added energy would be quinoa, which is beautiful because it cooks in like 15 minutes. Rice is still good. Rice noodles, brown rice pasta. I use that all the time anyway now. I just love it. So rice crackers can work. So there are some options for you. I try to avoid things like packaged crackers and breads and things that are labeled gluten-free, because a lot of times you look at the ingredients, it's like tapioca starch and fillers and gums and like all kinds of weird stuff. So, just beware of that. And I'm not saying you can't have any of this. You choose how much of this you want to take on. So, and I will give you some recipes to play with some of these ingredients, like how to make a pilaf with quinoa, where you mix a bunch of vegetables and some flavors into your quinoa. So you have like a one-pot meal. So I'll make sure you have that. So that's the focus for what you're eating. So I hope you're taking notes. Like Trader Joe's has some nice rice crackers in like the single sleeve that are cleanse friendly. They're naturally gluten-free because they're made of rice, but they don't have all this other weird additive stuff in there. So By the way, I don't get paid by any of these companies. Trader Joe's should pay me because I use their goods. I showcase their goods a lot, but because most of their house brands are non-GMO, no corn syrup, no added colors, like they do a lot of the screening for us, which I think is very helpful. So even their canned goods, Trader Joe's house goods, the canned goods are free of BPA for the lining of the cans, which is kind of hard to find. So they do a good job of helping to keep the toxins out of our food. All right. So I asked you to eat an apple a day. Another thing I'd be grateful if you would do on a daily basis is hot water with lemon in the morning. Now, if you live somewhere really hot, which was Leslie's experience last time, right? She was in Vegas and it was like so hot. She's like, I don't want hot water with lemon. Fine, you can do like, room temperature water with lemon. It's okay. It's totally okay. But hot water with lemon, especially in a colder climate, can help warm things from the inside out. And doing it first thing in the morning, like I said, you get to choose if you're still going to have your coffee or your tea. I just ask you to do the hot water with lemon first, or it may be warm water with lemon. But putting that lemon in, and it sounds counterintuitive because lemon, when we taste it, right, it tastes acidic, but when it goes into our body, it has an alkalizing effect. So it's helping, it's another tool for us to help decrease, it's not really decrease, to balance acidity and to help tame inflammation. So putting, the juice of half a lemon or a lime in some water in the morning, hot water, warm water, you choose, and drinking that as the first thing you put in your body. I mean, you can drink regular water first, it's fine. I always wake up and pound water, but having that hot water with lemon is like if you were trying to clean a stain on the counter, what would you add, right? You'd have to add some hot water and some acid and a little muscle energy. So when we add that hot water and the lemon into our gut, it just helps to dislodge things, right? We're just trying to help get things moving. And you want things to move in the morning, right? You want to eliminate, but it's also just helping to prime your digestive system and alkalize your body in a natural way. So those are two things that I'm like, if you could do those each day, that's huge, right? Those are little things, but if you did that, you ate an apple a day and did your lemon water every day for 21 days, that could be very helpful. Now, if you're also doing these other things, adding in the seasonal produce, a little bit of protein, a lot of pizzazz, minimizing the sugar and the caffeine and the alcohol, like you're going to feel amazing by the end of 21 days. So it's, choose your own adventure, right? How stringent you want to be with this. So this is why I put it as, what to do, what to eat, what to drink, what to avoid. Questions so far? You can just unmute yourself because I can't see everybody. So if you have a question or a clarification you want to make, please chime in.
If we can't give up coffee, asking for a friend, and we put cream in it every day, would you recommend like switching to like a non-dairy option? And if so, which one?
Okay, I'm with you, right? You're like, that's not going to go. I'm going to keep that, but I'm doing other things. And I love that. Thank you for standing up for your friend's right to drink coffee. What I would suggest, I'm not really, there aren't really good creamer substitutes out there. So if you already are using like half and half is what it sounds like, and it's the real deal, just make sure it's organic and just be mindful of, of how much you're using. I don't know if you know that if you've ever experimented to try to figure out if you have a dairy sensitivity, but I will say that the food sensitivities usually are triggered. They're usually not triggered by the fat in the food. So for example, people who are lactose intolerant can oftentimes eat butter or ghee and be okay, right? But not cheese or milk, no. So it's the protein or the carbohydrates in the food that usually trigger the sensitivities. So Sarah, if you're going to have a really hard time giving up that cream in your coffee, like if it were Coffee Mate French vanilla or name any other brand like that, I would be like, please, 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 let's find another option. I would be like, okay, half and half with stevia and vanilla, actual real vanilla. But I think you're talking half and half, right?
Yeah, I just do coffee with half and half in it. I don't add any sugar or anything like that.
Okay.
But
I think
maybe
you'll be
like
fine.
less half and half and less cups of it, maybe.
Right. Now you're thinking. Yes. Yes. And then with your coffee, I would also suggest, if you can get, and now I know a lot of you are doing Keurig, those little pod things, but if you can get organic fair trade coffee, just to make sure you're getting the cleanest version of it. Again, you choose, right? Choose how far you want to go. But I do, again, for Trader Joe's, I get organic fair trade French roast. And I've been doing half calf, half decaf. I used to do 1 cup of that. And lately I've gotten to 2 cups of that. So I need to take it down a notch. So I'm going to aim to get back to just 1 cup a day. Maybe I'll be all the way to decaf by the end. I have done that in the past, where I've just gotten to the point where my morning coffee is 1 cup of decaf. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm definitely going to cut down though on my coffee because I'm feeling it. Other questions so far before I move into kind of like the schedule, because we're almost done here. So I want to be conscious of your time. Anyone? Okay. So my goal is really for over the 21 days for you get 3 or 4 lessons a week, so that you're learning new material it's through a video, or it's a little reading. It's tips and tricks along the way, so that you can evolve your eating habit over these 3 weeks. Some people are like, I want to know right away everything I'm giving up, right? And they want to give up everything for 21 days. So that's what I was laying. This is the big picture, right? I'm telling you all what to focus on, what to avoid, but you get the lessons throughout. So what we're at right now is we're at week 0, right? Because we officially start on Monday. So this is the time for you to kickstart, to start, taking the sugar down a notch, the artificial sweeteners, the caffeine. Maybe, if there are things that you love that are going to trigger you, put those things in the freezer, give them to your mom, give them to a neighbor. Beware of what is lurking in your pantry, right, in your fridge. And then over the weekend, make your list, go get some good things, go find some apples to experiment with. At a minimum, get your apples and your lemons, right? And you may also want to do like a green juice throughout. That would be a nice thing, whether it's greens that you put in a shake or a smoothie, or making a juice or buying a juice, that's a great thing to add in. That would be another bonus, like to have start your day with your lemon water, have green juice, have your apple at some point. I found the apple for me, like in the afternoon, is great. That's a couple hours before dinner, and it's, helps stave off the hunger, but, and then you're not too full for dinner. So anyway, so week 0, that's what you're doing. And then Monday morning, you'll be able to access the app. So if you already registered and you look on there, there's a little countdown, right? So we open, I think it's like 12:01 a.m. Monday morning. And that's when you can start to see the lessons, and you can start to connect to each other and share share what's working on the wall of wins. And there's a daily gratitude practice in there. So that will start Monday morning. And then the lessons you get that week are about, like, where are the toxins lurking? How do you take those out? How do you, what foods to minimize to address food sensitivities? And then about seasonal produce. So like, if you already took everything in and you're like, I got my list and I'm going, like, it'll be reinforcing for you. But what I found is we learn something once, or we hear something once, it takes a couple times for us to actually learn it, and then to really let it register so that it becomes a part of our knowledge. So we use that knowledge when we're out about making our food choices. So you'll get those lessons in the first week. The second week, and I haven't really talked about this or mentioned this yet, we focus a little bit more on the rhythm or the timing of our eating, and trying to get to, at a minimum, 12 hours a day that we're not eating. And then some of us extending that longer, so that we're being aware of giving our body the time to rest and digest, so that we're spacing out, giving our our body time between our last meal of the day and the first meal of the day, not including your lemon water or your coffee generally. So at least 12 hours. And then some of you will take the stretch goal to do a liquid fast, like a juice cleanse or juice feast for 1, 2, or 3 days over that second weekend. And again, you can choose how much that you want to take on. I'll probably do a 2-day liquid thing. I have to look at the calendar and what's going on. And then week 3, you have a clean plate after you've done that. We've taken out a lot of the toxins and the triggers for food sensitivities. So week 3 is time to kind of experiment and maybe test out some of the foods that you've eliminated to see if you have a reaction to wheat or gluten or dairy or corn, so that you have an intuitive sense now of how these foods make you feel. Like I was saying in the conversation with my assistant Julia today, when she was saying like, wow, now I know, like when I eat dairy, I can totally feel, I get bloated, my skin breaks out. It's like, wow, this is not a food for me. But until she was able to isolate that over time, working with me on those things, sometimes you just feel kind of bloated all the time. You don't really know what's causing it. So that's what week 3 is about, is kind of me being able to connect those dots and awaken your own intuition, so that going forward, after our 21 days are over, then you're like, oh, I know this food makes me feel good and that food doesn't make me feel so good. So I'm going to choose not to eat it as often, because I know in my guts or in my brain or in my body, not just because what my brain says I should do, right? I want you to wake up your intuition about which foods really serve you and which sabotage you. And then the end of week 3, that ends on a Sunday, which is the 30th. And the app then just flips into what's called reflection mode. So that's time for you to go in and note. And this is in part, a lot of the app is like a personal journal for you, which you can download at the end. So in that reflection mode time, you can make notes and notice how make an assessment of how you did according to your goals. Note what your discoveries were, what habits you're going to keep going forward, what new foods you learn to love, right? It's a time just to kind of reflect on that progress, and we can, and then we have our celebration and raffle ceremony, which it will be on the Thursday. I thought it'd be really weird to have it on Halloween. Nobody would be there, right? So it'll be a Thursday, basically. Would that be like 4 weeks from now? So here's the schedule. That raffle ceremony would be November 3rd. So if you want to save the date, and you win by participating. It's not like who has the most points, because our app is a little bit gamified. If you went and looked at it, you get points for participation. But it's not that who has the most points wins. No, it's the more points you get, the more raffle tickets you get. And then you have the option to win prizes. And so those prizes could include a longer one-on-one coaching session with me. We'll really dive into something that you want to work on, or a pantry raid where I can come to your house and help you figure out what foods you may want to replace or upgrade. So there's some fun prizes. And then in between, we will have sessions like this on Tuesdays. October 11th, 18th, and 25th, Tuesdays at 7. And I will record them, and they'll be shorter than this generally, depends on how many questions you have, but it's a time for us to talk. And I will bring in some content, like I might talk more about the hunger brain connection thing, for example. Or I could talk more about mood and food, or, so we'll see. I kind of get the vibe of where everyone's at, and I'll pull some content together for Tuesday nights. And then we have this in-person option on Saturday, October 15th. Well, a little bit of a potluck. I'll make pumpkin pie smoothies, and we can get together. Now, it depends how many of us. I live in Newport Beach. And if it's beautiful, we could do it at the pool. If there's only a few of you, we could do it in my apartment. And if there's more of you, we could do it at the clubhouse. So I'll get a sense of that. It's probably going to be poolside, I think, as long as the weather stays We still have our Indian summer. And then too, I teach Saturdays at Core Power Irvine Jamboree. So if anybody wants to come in there and take class, I have 3 classes on Saturdays. So it's really fun when I have the surprise when some of the challengers are in the room together. So that was great. Yeah, Christine, I see you smiling. That was so fun. You came one time and had some of the challengers there. It was beautiful. First time I got to see her in person. So so that's the schedule. And then yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to focus on for tonight. Any questions?
As far as like recipes and things like that, Jen, do you give us those like throughout the challenge?
I'm going to give you this big thing here. So here, for example, are some cleansing beverages. Like this is a good mocktail right here. This it can be helpful, especially if you don't really cook at all. This is kind of a 13 things from easiest to most challenging. I'll talk about this one right here. Cody is a fan of this. I think I taught Cody this, or maybe I was thinking about Sean from another cleanse, but applesauce and almond butter. I'm looking at your face, Matt. Sound weird? Okay, I know it sounds like the most bizarre thing, but it is like such a great go-to for a snack or for breakfast. You take applesauce and put in a couple scoops of almond butter or sunflower butter, which I like more and more these days, but and mix that in together, which sounds strange. It ends up being the consistency of oatmeal, but it's cold, obviously not hot, or it's, you know, more room temperature, depending on the temperature of your butter. And then add in a little ginger, a little cinnamon, or a pumpkin pie spice. I even add a little cayenne pepper, unless I'm overheated. And just swirl that together, and you eat it like you would oatmeal. And it sounds like so what, but Sarah, this would be like such a good hack for you. And it's great for like for being on the go, for keeping in your office, right? I mean, you could even feed it to your kids. Probably not the cayenne pepper. Right, you absolutely could. And this, you know, it's something that I used to do, but it was one of my yoga teacher trainees who was like always scrambling. You know, took class and now he's coming to our sessions and he didn't bring food and he's trying to find food. He's like, I just got to go get food. And I'm like, dude, get some applesauce and some almond butter, put it in the fridge and get a coffee mug. And he was like, oh my God, that's so good. So anyway. But these are little tips like that on this paper here. I'm pointing at it. That's helpful, right? So, you know, the whole like hummus with vegetables, like dipping artichoke hearts in hummus is really good. Cherry tomatoes in hummus is really good. We always think of like pita chips in hummus, right? But dip your veggies in your hummus. Make yourself your own little trail mix. You know, make a green juice. This is my power shake. This is pretty much like what I have for my first meal every day, which is a shake with straight up cranberry juice with protein powder and super green powder. And there's all different kinds of brands out there for whatever. But that's my pretty much, you know, go-to thing, unless I actually make a smoothie, depends how busy I am. Then there's salads, like here's these roll-ups. You can use romaine leaves and put some leftover veggies in there or some, you know, pre-made packaged slaw stuff, right? And hummus and cherry tomatoes, whatever, roll that up. You can do things like that, or you can use Ezekiel tortillas or brown rice tortillas. So these are some tips. And then in here, like here's how to make your own salad dressing. I use this Asian pizzazz one in a lot of different recipes. This is the honey Dijon. And the thing with these, I recommend you make them and you just have them on hand, because then if you're throwing, you know, tomatoes and cucumber together with some lettuce and you have pizzazz, you just put that together and you're like, yum, it's good. So here's how to make parsley. And then I have these, like, here's a whole bunch of different smoothies, right? It's an approach, like you can do the pumpkin pie smoothie right here. You can do berry cleanser. You can do carrot cake, powerful pineapple. Okay, so I'm going to add a few more things to this before I send it to you, but I'm going to send you this whole thing. You see it's, I'm on page 8 right now. It's 30 pages. So there's some slow cooker recipes there, some lunch ideas, and then some actual like recipes too. So like tips, tricks, and recipes. Okay. This is the golden milk that I was mentioning earlier. It's like a Indian Ayurvedic remedy that's supposed to, it's a nice thing to have at night to help you wind down. And it's basically any kind of heated milk, right? Right now, if you're still in hot weather, you're like, I don't want to hear about this. So I did it as like an iced version, right? But it's some kind of milk with turmeric, cinnamon or pumpkin pie spice, a little bit of black pepper, a little bit of sweetener, other spices if you want, and you can shake that up, drink it cold, or you heat it up and drink it warm, which is the tradition. And that is supposed to help you calm down and wind down and help you prepare for bed. But, you know, anytime we get that turmeric in there, we want it because it is beautiful. Like I said, it's a superhero of antioxidants. All right, I see in the chat. All right, good. Thank you. Looking forward to starting. See you all next Tuesday and in the app. Beautiful. Okay. Any other questions?
I had a quick question. I might have missed it at the beginning. Did you mention an optional one-on-one scheduling through the website, or should I email you, or how does that
I
work?
was going to, as a follow-up, when I send you this handout, send a link to do a one-on-one. Yes, because you know, as I said, it's kind of like, let me stop sharing so I can see all of you better. Like pick your own journey. And sometimes you might want to have someone help you navigate, right? So depending on what your work-life scenario is or what your personal challenges are, I can help kind of direct you, navigate to the right direction. Yeah, absolutely. I'll send that link. Actually, I can do it now. I could put it in the chat. Why don't I do that? And I'll empower you. Let me get over here. And now, oh, you're not sharing. That's good. So you don't need to see all of my tabs. Let me find this. Let's do our 30-minute chat. Great. I'll get back to Zoom. Here we are. I'll put that in the chat. And I hope that you will. Where did my chat go? Chat. So that'll give you an opportunity to book 30 minutes one-on-one. Yes. Great question, Matt. Thank you. Yeah. Any others? You good, Jennifer? I don't see you, so it's all good. I can't see if you're thumbs up or good. Sarah, you good? Are you feeling overwhelmed or are you feeling empowered?
No, I feel empowered. This is helpful. I think, like, honestly, the hardest part is just knowing kind of where to start. And sometimes it can feel overwhelming. So this feels like a good way to start for me.
Good. I'm glad.
And it doesn't seem like it'll be super time consuming also, which is helpful, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. When you have the app and there's little lessons in there, like, so, you know, you can do as much or as little in that as you like, right? But the more we interact with each other, it's rooted in positive psychology. So it's like, I had my hot lemon water this morning, you know, and people are like, yay, you did that. Because every time we're like, wait, I did something good for myself, and increases that vibration. That means it's more likely that you're going to keep doing it. And we cheer each other on. Then we can see like, oh, well, I want to eat what she's having, right? So, and I am thinking of you, Sarah, from our conversation about food. Like, I'm thinking about making a pasta tonight with grated zucchini and marinara sauce. And I'm like, you know, this could be like the easiest thing, but I don't tend to write those things up, like these super easy things. So I'm trying to make sure I do more of that. So you have a little more like strategies as opposed to recipes. So, all right. Anyone else? Overwhelmed or empowered? Leslie, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling excited. I feel like, I think the last detox, I dipped my toes in everything. I was like, okay, I guess we're gonna try this and this and this. I guess I just like feel excited to dive in a little bit deeper and yeah, just like kind of go deeper. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, I'm excited.
It does, absolutely. Yeah, wonderful. Matt, overwhelmed or empowered?
More empowered for sure. I think it's just interesting to see, like, it's the perfect layout of all the things I want to know, that I feel like it's just like condensed, so I don't have to do the work of like figuring out what vegetable is gonna reduce my inflammation or what's good for each thing. So when you were talking, I was writing down like, oh, like asparagus cleanse, bowel support. So it's just convenient. It's a lot faster than trying to figure things out myself.
Right? Yeah, wonderful. Like, because I'm almost done with my master's in nutrition, so you don't need to get that, right? And then even before that, I did my certificate in holistic health coaching. So there's a ton of diets and dietary patterns and everything I researched with that. So, and there's so much misinformation out there, or there's just so much information. You're like, what's right? What's true? Right? And then also too, it's nice to be able to help with the one-on-ones to kind of help tailor the approach for you. So wonderful. Good. Well, thanks for being here. And I'm excited to see you in the challenge on Monday. Book your one-on-ones with me, and I will send you the handout we went through tonight with recipes and stuff. And I'll also post this video. I think that's it. So watch for that. And you can always send me questions, right? And then I'll see you in the challenge on Monday, or maybe in the yoga studio on Saturday, some of you.
Thank you so much, Jen.
Thank
All right,
you.
looking forward to seeing you. Thank you, everybody.
I guess.
Bye.